Subprimeval, Season 3, Episode 6, Divided We Fall, Part 2. Written by Robert S. C. Cutler. Read by Fentriss O. Moore. Marie pressed the back of her body into a corner between kitchen cabinets and the wall-mounted telephone. Through the earpiece, Dawn was screaming for her mother to answer, but all Marie could hear was the beating of her own heart. As the creature crept closer, Marie's skin turned cold and clammy. Beads of sweat rolled down her back. Outside, the sound of gunfire broke Marie out of her trance of death. As she took in a gulp of air, the creature charged forward, causing her to scream out in terror. The sound of her shrill voice was loud enough to be heard in the front yard of her house. Moments later, the murmur of men's voices echoed just on the other side of the front door. Alarmed by their sounds, the creature turned around and growled.
"Help me, please!"
Marie screamed. She had never felt this frightened in all of her 63 years. The front door rattled. "It's locked," a man on the other side declared. "Bust it in," another yelled. Seconds later, the front door flew inward amid splinters of wood. A group of Kansas National Guardsmen dressed in full combat gear came pouring into the house. Unsure of which way to run, the creature stood up and screeched. In a blast of gunfire, its body was shredded and sent flying in all directions. "Hold your fire! Hold your fire!" one of the soldiers shouted. "Are you all right, ma'am?" a second soldier asked Marie. Marie stood in the corner still clutching the phone. She tried to answer, but couldn't seem to form the words. "Tell the civilians they can come inside now," the second soldier said. Wide-eyed and not sure what to expect, Dawn and Craig crossed the threshold into the house. Seeing her mother in the kitchen made Dawn's heart leap. She ran over to Marie and wrapped her arms around her. Craig let out a big sigh and then took in the spectacle of the yellow sticky note and bullet-riddled living room and kitchen. "I hate to break this up, folks, but we have less than a minute to evacuate you out of the house," the second soldier said. "This neighborhood is quickly becoming a dead zone." "What do you mean by dead zone?" asked Craig. "Those advancing things, animals, or whatever they are, have already overrun the south side of Salina." "We better go, hon," Craig urged. "Where's your suitcase, Mom?" asked Dawn. A look of worry washed over Marie's face. "In the bedroom. But what about all of my other things?" "We didn't get a truck, Mom. Craig tried to." Marie's face turned red with frustration. "I should have never trusted you to do the right thing. I asked you to do one thing for me, and that was all. Oh, how I wish your brother was here. He would have already had a truck and all my things packed." Marie let go of her mother. "See what I mean, Craig?" "Well, that happy reunion didn't last long," Craig said as he hurried into the bedroom to get Marie's suitcase. "Time to go, ma'am," the second soldier said. "Specialist Huff and Specialist Constantine will escort you to your car and then safely out of the area." When Specialist Huff approached, Marie flew into a rage. "I am not leaving my house open to thieves. My husband and I work too hard for the likes of drug addicts and homeless people to steal our life away." "Calm down, Mom. They're only trying to help," Dawn said while placing a hand on Marie's shoulder. "No, you calm down. If you and that husband of yours cared about me at all, you would have been here yesterday when I called you. You know Craig couldn't get away from work, and what do you mean he couldn't get away? It's not like he had some big case to try. He sells insurance, for Pete's sake. He couldn't even make it as a lawyer. Why would I expect him to perform a simple task like renting a moving truck?" Craig walked out into the living room, toting Marie's suitcase just in time to hear the hurtful comments. "This is going to be a pleasant trip," he smirked. "Get them out of here and to their POV, Huff," the second soldier yelled. "Let's go, folks. You can continue this conversation while you're driving far away from here," Huff said. Marie looked around her house and wept. "When can I come home?" Specialist Huff looked at Marie with sad, tired eyes. "I'm not sure, ma'am. I had to abandon my own home. Most of us did. I pray the government finds a solution fast." Dawn tried to guide Marie toward the door, but was pushed away. "Why don't you try to be useful for a change?" Marie said, "and take my wedding picture off the mantle." On her way out the door, Marie paused when she saw the Kia parked in the driveway. "You couldn't afford a real car?" she asked Craig. "It's very comfortable, Marie," Craig said. "No, my Cadillac is comfortable. That little tin can looks cramped and unsafe." Well, at least our tin can runs, Dawn said. You should have sold that old thing after Daddy died. There goes one happy family. Specialist Constantine laughed as he and Huff followed them outside. Yeah, no shit, Huff agreed. Let's just make sure they get out of harm's way. Specialist Huff and Constantine followed Dawn, Craig, and Marie until they got into the long line for the freeway on-ramp. The northern part of Salina was jammed full of motorists trying to get to safety, and pedestrians pushing shopping carts and children's wagons full of mementos and household necessities. Just 2 miles south, the creatures had already taken a strong foothold. Look at them, Constantine said while motioning towards the pedestrians. It's like a scene out of an old World War II newsreel. Weird, Huff agreed. If those things get any closer, I don't know how we're going to protect them all. I mean, they're like sitting ducks. We better check in, Constantine said. Our unit is going to need all the help they can get. Huff nodded and keyed his radio. Bravo Company, this is Specialist Huff and Constantine. What's your position? North Street and Santa Fe and retreating, a voice squawked back over the radio. These things are just too fast and numerous for us to hold back. How soon until they reach Interstate 70? We've got a bunch of civilians on foot and a log jam of vehicles trying to get onto the freeway, asked Huff. 30 minutes at best. We're headed in that direction now to help expedite things. Roger that, Huff responded. We'll hold our position. Out of the corner of his eye, Constantine caught a little girl about the age of 5 with her hair in cornrows waving and smiling. Her mother and grandmother were doing anything but smiling. Each were wearing a stuffed full backpack and pulling a large suitcase with wheels. The little girl had a Dora the Explorer backpack slung over her shoulders and an Elmo doll tucked under one arm. Constantine suddenly felt sick as a wave of fear rushed through his body. He knew in his heart that no matter how hard he tried, he might not be able to save that sweet girl and her family from those monstrous things. Sasha Braggart sat at the AC and anchor desk, waiting to go on the air while a makeup artist and hairstylist attended to her well-manicured looks. The floor director gave her the 30-second sign, and she gave him thumbs up in return, and then motioned for the 2 women doting on her to wrap it up. As Sasha adjusted her posture and practiced smiling, the floor director started to count down from 10. The red light lit up atop of one of the many cameras in the studio, and her face lit up as she addressed a worried nation. Welcome back to American Cable News special report on the terror in the heartland. And here joining us as always is our distinguished panel of experts, Sam Patterson, chief editor for the Washington Eagle, Kara Turnbull with the Conservative Morality Foundation, and Mort Goodley with the legal firm Moret, and Goodley. As each guest was introduced, they gave a nod along with an all-knowing smile. Tonight we start with you, Mort, Sasha said. Thousands of families are being forced out of their homes by the Kansas and Oklahoma state governments. Do they have legal jurisdiction to kick these people out on the street? There is considerable threat to their welfare and safety, but if it was me and my husband, we would want to stay and defend our home. The order to evacuate was given under martial law, so yes, they must leave whether they like it or not, Mort responded. Oh, I disagree, Kara said in a thick Southern accent. Kansas and Oklahoma are both red states, which mean they have some of the best gun laws in the country. The average citizen should have enough firepower in their own home to fend off any hostile attack. Mort chuckled and shook his head. Regardless what the NRA says, the law must be followed. It's for the people's own safety that they listen to the authorities. We all know how you and your New York anti-Second Amendment constituents feel about the NRA, Mort, Kara sneered. Sam Patterson of the Washington Eagle jumped into the conversation. I believe you're missing the point, Kara. People are dying in the Midwest. I've seen video of these animals in action. A handgun is no match for these things. Well, thankfully, the NRA has fought for the rights of all Americans to be able to own more effective and powerful weapons than just handguns, Kara retorted. All valid points, Sasha said. And now I would like to welcome our guests, Senator Crawling of Kansas and Senator Alexander of Virginia. Good evening, gentlemen. Both men flashed cap-teeth smiles and responded with greetings of their own. Senator Crawling spoke first. I'd like to start off with saying that we have some of the hardiest folk in the great state of Kansas. We will fight our way through this crisis and come out on the other side a stronger and more cohesive people. How do you feel about the governor enacting martial law, Senator? Asked Sasha. He might have jumped the gun a bit. Ed Green is good people, But in my opinion, he should have given our citizens a chance to defend themselves first. Senator Alexander grinned and shook his head. I think the good senator from Kansas is ignoring the fact that this isn't just a Kansas-Oklahoma problem. I-70 is nearly cut off, and I-40 is completely shut down. These are two major east-west arteries that our nation's supply chain relies heavily on and can't bear to lose. As usual, my Democratic counterpart has his big government blinders on, Crawling said. There wouldn't be a problem with the freeways if the people were left alone to work things out for themselves. The evacuation order has the roads clogged, not this new species of animal. Didn't you and your committee have an emergency meeting with the president just an hour ago? Sasha asked Senator Alexander. What was said in that meeting? What was the president's bottom line with dealing with this emergency? Senator Alexander sat up straight and looked directly into the camera. The president is very optimistic that we can eradicate this new threat and keep it from spreading to more of the country. At this very moment, he has his sleeves rolled up and is working diligently with this cabinet to sort this crisis out. You can tell your Beltway president that he and his liberal friends can stay out of the Midwest, stay out of our business, and keep his tax-hungry hands out of the good people of this nation's pockets. Senator Crawling ran it on. He's not just the president of Washington, D.C. He's the commander-in-chief for all 50 states, and the onslaught of these wild animals is of a big concern to him, Alexander argued back. The corners of Crawling's mouth turned downward. Well, I didn't vote for him. The camera panned back to Sasha. Thank you, gentlemen. It's always refreshing to have two different points of view on the show. Coming up next after the break, animal expert Dr. Chris Shaw will explain if we have anything to fear from this new species. At the I-70 interchange in North Salina, Kansas, 150 Kansas National Guardsmen have positioned their vehicles and bodies as a buffer between the fleeing citizens and the advancing horde of creatures. 6 transports at a time shuttled weary pedestrians to the refugee shelter 10 miles away. But despite the guards' Herculean effort, over 200 people were still left. While standing atop a Humvee and peering out of a pair of field glasses, Specialist Huff started to yell excitably. They're almost here! Christ, look at them all! There's too many to count! Take up your positions, the company commander ordered. Wait until they are 30 yards out and then lay down a steady and suppressive fire. At the front line of defense, soldiers lay down or knelt with their sights set on the mass of bodies headed their way. On the other side of the overpass, Operation Taxi was still progressing, but not fast enough for the poor souls waiting for a ride. In the tense moments before collision, some of the soldiers couldn't wipe the sweat from their eyes fast enough, while others nervously chewed on their lips or tongues. Just as the sun dipped behind the wooded field to the west, the asphalt began to rumble beneath the soldiers' feet and bodies. Down the road and up and over a creek bed, the first of the creatures appeared, chirping in varying tones and sounding much like a demonic choir. Gunfire exploded into a constant burst of lead. One by one, the creatures dropped, the fallen ripped apart and consumed by their own opportunistic kind. As lethal as the wall of bullets was, some of the faster animals advanced unscathed, reaching the front line of soldiers with deadly results. Mere moments after the assault had begun, both soldier and civilian were running for their lives. From the vantage points of the on-ramps and overpass, people stuck in the confines of their vehicles watched in horror as the mass of nearly 1,000 voracious monsters engulfed and consumed every man, woman, and child in their path.